for a long time, I have, on occasion, taken a vote by myself. and it's a no vote. And for many years, I always assumed, well, this is risky. One of these days, it's really going to hurt me in my district. But you know what? It's the opposite. It builds credibility in the district. You know where I could be into trouble? Is if I don't vote no and vote with everybody else, and it should be a no, because I know you'll be watching and you'll know it should have been a no. So it is so easy to drift into this, to go along, to get along, that you have to vote and not vote on principle. That to me is the most important thing. But the country is really waking up. I am a lot more optimistic today than I was a year and a half ago. Not because of the economy, and not because of our foreign policy, and not because of our national defense, and not because of the continuous threat of a terrorist attack. But I'm more optimistic because the people are way ahead of the Congress. Miles ahead, and they know what's wrong, and they know what ought to be done. And one of the reasons why I'm the most optimistic is when I give this message, especially to the college kids in the crowd, and I talk about it, I never go in, and they would never dare ask me, are you going to vote for grants for college students? You know, because I don't believe in it. Because it's not in the Constitution. But I tell them the story. I tell them what's going on in the country. I tell them this country is bankrupt. And that we live on borrowed money and printed money. We're overextended, and we're paying the price. People don't want our dollars as much before. So that means prices go up. We have a weak dollar. We've had so many bubbles. We've had NASDAQ bubbles and housing bubbles. But the big bubble is becoming more apparent than ever before, and that is the dollar bubble. And the dollar bubble is starting to crack. It's starting to leak out. And what are we doing up in Washington? The Congress and the Federal Reserve. I can just see, if I could draw a cartoon, I'd have the Congress on one side and the Federal Reserve on the other side, and this balloon is deflating, and they're pumping away to try to keep that balloon inflated. And they can't do it. It's impossible to do it. So this week, I was on a couple of the talk shows on business channels. And I think it was on Fox Business and Fox News. He said, now, he said, I understand your position. He said, but if you had your way, and there's a major reaction to your method, and I can see that there would be. You know, if we quit bailing out, I mean, you have to pay the price. And there would be some difficulty. He says, would you take any responsibility for the crisis that you brought on? I said, no, I'm not going to take any responsibility. It's the people who created the bubble, created the deficit. They're the ones at fault. But the point is, if we continue to do what we're doing, it's going to be much worse than the pain that we have of finally cutting off the money machine. And this is what young people will accept when I present this case. You know, what I do is offer them out of the system. I'd like to say that, it's, you know, to start with, no student, you know, who's still studying in high school or college or graduate, no student should have to be paying income tax. Why collect money from one group and give them free money and try to get them through college when you have them, some who are energetic and go and work and they earn money, and then we chip away at Social Security and income tax and the whole nonsense. So the sooner we get this idea that we can be responsible. And why I was so impressed is young people said, yes, they're willing to do that. If they can get out of the tax system, they don't care about Social Security. They know they're not going to get it. And that really encouraged me. You know, and another thing that has been a consequence of the campaign that I'm very pleased about is that I've been doing the same thing, I figured, for all these years. And my assumption was that my role was to get elected in a district, state my principles, take my oath of office serious, and then get reelected. And at least prove to the district that you can stick to your guns, vote by yourself, explain those positions, and get reelected, and then do your best to get reelected with an increasing margin. And I've been able to do that, and this year, in spite of the fact that some Republicans have to campaign and work, I don't have a Democratic opponent this year. So, you know, this is... But I've been pleased because because the carryover has been, especially on economic issues, is that now, if I do what I've been doing and nobody paid any attention, just think of all those years that Alan Greenspan came before our committee. I asked the same questions over and over again, pestered him to death, and razzed him to death because he used to be a gold standard Randian who believed in free markets and all this, and he's up there being the biggest inflator in our history and the biggest bubble maker in history, and yet, you know, just went by the way. So I figured my role would be to just leave a record and leave a standard and hopefully be as correct as I can, study the bills, and do my best to do the right thing. So I never really expected to all of a sudden have a few people pay attention, and that's what has happened. But the carryover is that now we have a lot of people interested in monetary policy. I see so many young people come up. I had never heard about the Federal Reserve System. Now I'm studying the Federal Reserve System. What should I read? And I introduce them to the Mises Institute and the Murray Rothbard and the various economists, and they are looking and studying, and that is the future. Because countries don't move by politicians. Sorry, Virginia, we don't have much to say about it. It is the ideas that really count. It's what's taught in these universities. It's what's taught the younger generation, because it is a prevailing attitude that really counts. Because those are the individuals that will become the teachers and the writers and the people in the media and the people that write plays. So it's an attitude. But unfortunately, for the last 100 years, the attitude's been wrong. But it's shifting. It's not so much that we've had a miracle exposure of these views. It's a combination of these views became available at a time that two things were happening. One, the evidence that the system we have today is not working is very, very clear. And that has been important. The other thing is there's been a way to overcome the closing down of information by, it used to be 3 major networks. And now there are more major networks. And there's a lot of minor networks. There's a lot of cable stations and a lot of radio stations and shortwave stations. And there's a lot of people who use the internet because there's no closing down the ideas today, so things move much more rapidly. I've discovered how quick things move, and they, of course, use the term viral. Well, the viruses in the computer industry is much faster than the viruses I studied in medical school. Because before I decided to run and made the announcement, somebody leaked the information, and I had one person and one secretary, and this information was leaked that I was going to run. And that thing spread. I mean, we literally got thousands of phone calls. And we only had 2 people, then people, rightly so, got upset. Why don't you answer our phone? Why don't you answer your phone? And it seemed like we were always behind the 8 ball from the beginning to the end. But that was a good thing, the fact that we were so overwhelmed. But the enthusiasm is still there, and that to me is great. But this will continue. The campaign, in the conventional sense, has ended, but the campaign for liberty, in many ways, has just begun.